You're listening to the GeekCast radio network of podcasts.
Cliff Jumper, commence countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And now, ToyCast with your hosts, TFG1 Mike, Kevin Optimus Solo Thompson, and Pixel Dan.
Hello and welcome to the 83rd episode of ToyCast. I am TFG1 Mike, and I'm joined by Kevin Optimus Solo Thompson. Hello, sir.
Hello.
And returning from Dirtopia, Pixel Dan from the Pop Culture Network.
What's going on, Mike?
Oh, not much.
Returning from Dirtopia.
Yeah, and Kevin has no idea what I'm talking about.
I'm glad I don't know what you're talking about.
Over on Pixel Dan's podcast, video show, whatever you want to call it, That New Toy Smell, they just a few weeks ago, obviously, actually at Halloween, they did a little Halloween special, and it was like this alternate universe thing where everybody on the Pop Culture Network was completely not themselves. And
Except me. I was
except for you.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. So
That was fun. It was fun. I like to kind of go off, do something a little weird and crazy sometimes just for fun.
Well, now that you guys have done that, you have to do a Thanksgiving and Christmas special.
Well, I don't know. We'll probably do a Christmas special, but I doubt it'll be crazy like the Halloween special.
Yeah, you can only be so crazy if it's Halloween.
That's exactly.
Christmas, you almost have to be too goody-goody.
Right, yeah.
Well,
they get toys for Christmas. Come on.
Well, you could reenact the scene from A Charlie Brown Christmas, the whole play.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
In black and white.
Oh, jeez.
Well, of course.
So, we are here. It is episode 83 of ToyCast, and this is the most powerful collectors in the universe. And if that doesn't give you a hint as to what we're going to be talking about, then you've been living under a rock. All three of us are huge Masters of the Universe fans. Some of us have more toys than others.
What is Masters of the Universe? What?
Yeah. All right, Mr.
I'm on the wrong show, dang it.
Yeah, really. That's funny. Oh man.
I thought we were talking about Dick Tracy toys.
Actually,
Yeah.
enough. He was the only person I could put outside my Castle Grayskull after a certain event happened in my young life.
Oh.
I used to have Dick Tracy, James Bond Jr., and Wheeler from Captain Planet posed outside my Castle Grayskull.
That is the weirdest scene I've ever pictured in my head.
And
I
why
have a
wouldn't
picture
you?
of it somewhere. I just don't know where it is.
Why wouldn't those guys hang out together at Castle Grayskull? I mean,
That sounds like a Halloween episode right there.
No, I don't. And then I had some weird, repaint mask car.
I could have sent you Copper Kid to put in there.
Oh, God, no. Screw you and your damn Copper Kid.
Mike was getting mad because we were looking. He was showing me DVDs the other day because we were trying to compare which Star Wars sets we each had, and I was since I had the camera on, I kept putting my Copper Kid in front of the camera for him.
nice.
He was getting pissed off.
Asshole.
I don't have any Silverhawks toys. I wish I did. They're so hard to come by now.
They are.
I used to have them. But anyways.
That's another episode.
Yeah,
those
those things will never be covered on this podcast as long as I'm
What?
in charge.
Why?
Mike's such a jerk when it comes to Silverhawks.
No, it's just this thing that Kevin and I have going back and forth between Thundercats and Silverhawks. It's just a little rivalry we have going back and forth. So, but yeah. So Dan, when did you first start? Who was your first Masters figure when you were a kid?
Oh my gosh, that's such a hard question.
I was just going to say, dang it.
I don't even remember. It's most likely got to be He-Man. I would almost guarantee it was He-Man. I was so young though. I was born in '82, so I was right around the same time that Masters figures even showed up in stores and everything. So of course my first exposure to Masters of the Universe was the cartoon. Mm-hmm. When I was old enough to realize that I was watching TV and stuff. So probably He-Man. I don't know. I can't remember exactly when or what my first one was. I know that my mom constantly bought them for me. Like, it was one of those things where we would take regular trips to Toys R Us, and I would get to pick out a new He-Man figure to come off. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. What about you, Kevin?
I know it has to be one of two because I started collecting these immediately too. I was pretty young. I was born in '81. But the first line, just looking through the different figures that were released in that very first line, it had to be either He-Man or Skeletor because those are the only two from the first line I owned. And I think the first line had like eight or nine figures in it or whatever.
It was 8. Yep.
Yeah, 8 figures, and He-Man and Skeletor are the only two out of that line that I owned. I might have had Tila, but if I did, I didn't have her very long until I either lost her or someone stole her or something. So it had to be He-Man or Skeletor.
Yeah.
The original ones, not any of the the later line ones, but those original first two. Yeah. And actually, I still have those two. They're on my shelf across the room from me, so they're staring at me.
Yeah, I see. This is, and I know a lot of people are going to scream at their iPod saying, "What the hell are you doing?" But
what the hell are you doing?
Shut up, Kevin. I was into Transformers, and I was into He-Man and Voltron, Thundercats, and all that stuff.
Transformers.
Oh,
what?
don't even start.
What are those?
GoBot.
What are Transformers?
Don't even start, Mr. GoBot. Don't make me say
Rock Lords.
Are we talking about Leader 1?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Sidekill is the best.
No.
I just got a Sidekill, actually.
Anyways.
Oh, I'm trying to get a Sidekill right now. Honestly, I am.
I just got one from one of my friends growing up. He's selling his whole toy collection. He asked me to come by and look at them before he got rid of them. He doesn't have a very big collection, but I saw the Sidekill, and I'm like, that's mine.
That's awesome.
So anyways, yeah, I remember getting a lot of these figures. I actually remember having Stinkor. Oh, wow, that was a horrible figure.
No, he's awesome.
He's awesomely horrible, though, because of the stupid smell feature.
Maybe. Yeah, it smells like patchouli.
When we're talking about He-Man, though, I actually do have a story somewhat similar to yours, although not as traumatic and ridiculously wrong as your story. But my mom did have a garage sale at some point in my teen years. I don't know if it was when I was in junior high or high school or something, but I do remember that some of my toys were lost in this garage sale. Now, she knew better than to touch any of my Transformers, so not one of them got sold. But I did lose. I lost every single Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figure I had. I lost in that garage sale, and I lost half of my Masters of the Universe collection. So she didn't touch the G.I. Joe, she didn't touch the Transformers, but for some reason I guess she must have thought I was like done with the Turtles and the He-Man toys, so that's where I lost most of mine. So it's not as traumatic as losing the entire collection because I did have some that survived. Like I said, the He-Man and Skeletor survived, as well as I have the Sorceress and Zor and a couple other ones that survived. So it wasn't quite as traumatic, but I feel your pain a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I went through a similar thing because when I totally hit that age where I was like, oh, whoa, I'm way too old for toys now. I don't need toys anymore. That brief little period before you realize you made a huge mistake and you're an idiot for getting rid of all your toys.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I did the yard sale thing, and I sold all of my original Masters of the Universe figures, with the exception of I think I picked out 4 or 5 that I kept that I still have today. Mm-hmm. Which was Flying Fist He-Man. Don't ask me why I kept that one over the regular. But it was Flying Fist He-Man. It was Scareglow. It was Mosquitor. Where's the other one? Oh, and Sarad from the movie.
Okay.
Those are the only ones I kept out of my entire Masters collection. I sold all the rest of them at a garage sale where one dude walked up and asked how much for the entire tote that was sitting there, and then walked away with it. So yeah, I know, and I hate myself still. You know, I look at all because I've rebuilt my collection, but it's one of those things where it's like, oh, they're not the ones I had when I was a kid.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Well, you know, and you guys know, and if anyone's listened to ToyCast 77, this is going to be a repeat of that. You know, out of the three of us, I have the most traumatic story.
Yes, you do.
There's no contest. We're not trying to compete with that.
I know.
I just had to bring it up because this was the one line that actually I did get hit with. I mean, like I said, I didn't lose my Transformers, I didn't lose my G.I. Joe, and I, of course, did not lose my Star Wars figures because that would have been like, I would have murdered somebody. So I didn't lose any of those, but for some reason, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and He-Man got the axe.
Oh, ooh.
So, 1986, all right. I'm 6 years old. I'm super still into He-Man because a lot of it was still on reruns. Even though the show was over, they would still show it 5 days a week in reruns because it was in syndication.
Right.
I had literally everything. I think I was only missing like the Palace of Eternia, which no kid's parents would have bought them back then.
Oh, I'm still missing that. Missing that. I
had Snake Mountain. I had Grayskull. I had every version of He-Man, every version of Skeletor, Zor. I go down the list, and I had everything. And majority of it because at the time we were living in a duplex apartment. We hadn't moved into our house yet because my grandfather at the time and my three uncles were building us a house down the street from our apartment. We hadn't moved yet. And majority of my collection was at my dad's because and my dad lived in Rhode Island at that time, and I would bring my toys to play there. So I would just most time I'd just leave them there. I had Snake Mountain there and pretty much all of the actual action figures. I think I only had like maybe 6 action figures and Castle Grayskull at my mom's. And went down there one time and went in my room, and there's nothing in there except the bed, the dresser, and whatever other pieces of furniture. I'm like, Dad, where's all my toys? You're too old for toys. I sold them all. And
the reason that's such a traumatic story is because this is completely not like the Dan and my story where it was us hitting a certain age later on. This is when you were like still like what, 5 or 6?
6. I was 6.
Yeah, that's awful. Who thinks a 6-year-old is too old for toys? That's what I want to know.
That would be a different story completely if you were like 12.
Yeah.
If it was like you were 12 and he's like, "Oh, I got rid of him because I thought you didn't want him anymore." That I'll buy that because even some of us.
No, I was 6.
That's horrible.
I was 6, and what pisses me off about it, and not even if I had the entire collection today, I wouldn't sell it. But the point is, what pisses me off about it is those toys are worth huge dollars today. I could be rich right now if I still had that entire collection.
That's why you're angry all the time.
But would you sell them?
I don't know.
So you may not be rich.
Well,
I still have all. Yeah. I wouldn't have sold them if I were you.
Yeah. I just remember, and because I only got into the vintage stuff because once the show was over and once obviously my heart was ripped out of my chest, I was done. I didn't get into New Adventures. I didn't get into any of that stuff.
There's a reason for that.
Well, it's the New Adventures cartoon. I had seen a couple episodes of it, and oh my god, that cartoon sucked. But once that happened, I was just done with Masters. I got into Turtles and went from there.
Yeah, I always remember I had a cousin that was he was probably 4 or 5 years older than me actually. And I was always jealous because he had every figure basically of He-Man. I mean, he didn't literally have every single figure, but it seemed like that. And he had all these ones that I wished I would have had. But He-Man, I think, was one of those ones where I would buy if I was in the store. Like if I got to pick out a toy, I got it. But as far as like getting presents, I don't think I ever got really any He-Man characters as presents because I think my mom basically wanted to focus on one thing so I could get more of them. So I always got Transformers as presents. So it was up to me, like, picking stuff out in a store as far as getting He-Man. But I always remember wanting a few of my cousin's toys that he had, like, especially some of the ones I liked the most out of the ones that he had. I remember the Mantenna.
Yeah, Mantenna. Yeah.
With the cool eyes.
Yeah.
Leech was always one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
Just because he had the dang suction cups, and I thought that was cool. And the other one that I always wanted that he had was Manny Faces, just because I thought it was really cool that you could change his faces.
Yeah. We, I think, like, obviously He-Man and Skeletor were the ones I played with the most, obviously, hero and villain, but just outside of, like, the one Masters vintage toy that I took everywhere, I took it to school, I took it everywhere I went, was, for some strange reason, it was Tongue Lashor, and I have no idea why.
Well, the one that I actually owned that was my favorite was also a Snake Man. Mine was Rattler. I loved Rattler, and he was one of the ones that I actually had. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because his tail kind of did the whole little rattle thing, or just because I thought he was like pretty intimidating looking. But the same way, I had him everywhere. I didn't take He-Man or Skeletor with me places, but I like taking Rattler with me.
What about you, Dan?
Well, I could probably shock a whole lot of people right now.
Mosquitor?
Mosquitor was always my favorite as a kid, and I guess you can. He is really cool looking, and he's got that awesome little pump feature with the real liquid blood running through the chest. Yeah. As a little boy, how could you not think that's the coolest thing?
Right. It's not like you said Snout Spout or something.
Right. Right.
I mean, that would be a little bit different. No, I remember the blood in Mosquito, and I always thought that was pretty darn cool.
Oh, yeah. Always. So I carried Mosquito with me all over the place. Like, that guy was always in my pocket if I could fit him there. I loved Mosquito. Scareglow was another one of my big favorites as a kid. In fact, I like Scareglow so much that once I got him, he replaced Skeletor. In my little world, Scareglow was Skeletor. Because I thought he was so cool looking, and I loved the purple cape and the glow in the dark, and especially after seeing the '87 live action movie, Scareglow kind of was like my movie Skeletor.
Yeah, he looks more like the movie version.
Yeah, because with the white and everything. So Scareglow is definitely one of my absolute favorites as well.
What about? Did you guys have like a favorite like vehicle or playset? I never had any of the playsets. My cousin had the Snake Mountain and the slime or whatever it was that came in the all that stuff. I never had any of the actual playsets. I had some of the vehicles, and I really liked. Well, I didn't like the one because it always broke on me. Which one was that? The Bone, the
Battle Bones.
Yeah, the Battle Bones. Like, I don't know, it just didn't work for me as much because I think it was missing like a leg or something. But I always liked the freaking, what was it, the not the Scorpion, the guy with the big legs, Manosaur.
Manosaur, there you go.
Yeah, I always kind of liked him. His legs would fall off every once in a while, but they weren't broken, so I liked that I could put him back in. But did you guys have like a favorite vehicle or a playset?
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay. I had a couple actually. The Battle Ram was always my favorite of the vehicles.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
With the removable sky sled on the front, and that's to this day that's probably my favorite of the actual Masters vehicles. So I always liked that one a lot. I really liked Spydor, which was the giant motorized spider that actually like walked when you turned it on. Skeletor sits in it. Oh, that thing was so cool. And I still remember the commercials. Spydor, boom, boom.
There you go.
And the slime pit. Anything with slime was always a big favorite of mine. So the slime pit was a great playset. I love that thing.
I remember having the laser bolt, but I don't remember how much I liked it as a kid. I kind of liked that it would like extend a little bit, like the wheel would pop up or whatever it did, but I don't remember playing with it a ton. Some of them were a little more plain than the others.
I always got in trouble with the slime pit because I would never use the slime for the correct purpose.
Yeah, my mom was always real hesitant to give me that slime.
Yeah. I was always like thrown back. I'm like, wait a second, we're actually going to be putting like slime on the figures. Like, does it come off? Like, does that ruin my figure forever?
For me, I don't remember really having a whole lot of the vehicles. I think I just had the figures, and of course, like I said, I had Grayskull, and I had Snake Mountain and all that stuff, but I don't remember having a lot of the vehicles. I think I remember having a couple of the Sky Sleds. Mm-hmm. Did they sell those individually?
No, they came only attached to the Battle Ram.
Oh, did they? I could have sworn I had one that was separate. Well, that was separate. I don't know. For me, it's got to be Grayskull because my mom, up until 2000, 6, my mom lugged Grayskull with her everywhere since 1993. Well, without going into too many personal details of my life, in 93, my mom had to sign custody over to my dad. And I basically took whatever I could put in Dad's car. And Grayskull really wasn't something that was going to make the trip.
Right.
So Mom just held on to it, and everywhere she moved from 1993 to 2006, she held on to it.
That's awesome.
And I've got it now. And I have to ask you, Dan, because I've seen a couple of your all's videos when you showed off your Grayskull and your Masters. Why is yours such a dark green?
I actually have the one that's on display in my room that you saw in the video is customized.
Oh,
it's not the original one. I've got 2 Grayskulls. I've got one that's untouched too. But this one I got I don't even remember where I got it because I didn't customize it. Somebody else did. But I think I picked it up with like a lot of stuff that I bought. But yeah, the guy kind of darkened it up and he gave it a good black wash and he added like some little vines growing up to the sides of it. I just thought it looked really cool. So that's the one that's displayed in my room right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool, but like when I was watching the video, I'm like, that's
oh yeah,
a little Grayskull.
Yeah, I know it throws people off all the time. They're like, why does it look like that? And I was like, yeah, yeah, probably not.
I had a question just for either of you, since we're talking about the classic line. I think it's only we have to bring up which version of like He-Man, for example. I mean, you had the regular version, you had the Flying Fist, and you had the Thunder Punch. Which one was each of your favorites?
Don't forget, you also had the Battle Armor.
Battle Armor.
Yeah.
And of those, I would say Battle Armor was definitely my favorite. Now, apparently, I had some kind of connection to Flying Fist He-Man. If he's one of the figures
I love the Flying Fist. I love the thing, whatever it is that the weapon. That
weird spinny bowler, whatever it is.
It was just cool.
Maybe it was the shiny armor. I've got some kind of fascination with anything that's like shiny and metallic. So I was like, yeah shiny armor He-Man.
For me, it was the original He-Man. I never liked any of the gimmicks. I hated that Battle Armor He-Man so much.
Then you probably hated this entire toy line if you hated
No.
I was gonna say that's what makes this toy line cool.
Yeah.
The gimmicks on He-Man just didn't really get. I don't know. I just didn't really get them too much. But like the Battle Armor He-Man, I think I might have had like a really, really bad quality control one because it would always stick. It was never like really loose.
Really?
Yeah, it was super tight, and I could half the time it would end up between non-battle damage and halfway battle damage with just like the gray part showing as the front. And I couldn't get the thing to move.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had one that stuck like that. In fact, most of them are kind of loose nowadays. You know.
See, I don't know. For me, it just goes back. I like the chest part of the Flying Fist one so much.
Yeah.
It's shiny. I like the emblem. Whereas like the Thunder Punch, to me, I just don't like I don't like the coloring on the chest part.
Yeah.
The
red and the
So for me, I think it had more to do with the actual outfit is why I liked Flying Fist the most.
That's probably my reason too.
Yeah. What about on the flip side? Obviously, Skeletor had a few different versions as well.
I always really liked Terror Claws Skeletor, just because I really liked the outfit that he was wearing on that one.
Yeah.
And sorry,
I think that, no, I was just gonna say I think that's I only had the original and the claw one. I mean, I knew what the other ones looked like, but I really liked the claw one.
Yeah, he is really cool. He's really cool. He's actually one that I'm missing from my collection right now. Crazy enough.
That is kind of crazy.
Oh. I know, it's weird.
I don't have the thing that was on his back anymore. I have the
little. Is it that's the little dragon bone thing? Was that?
Yeah, the dragon skull mouth, whatever. I don't have that part, but I have the rest of it.
I always liked Dragon Blaster Skeletor too, just because I thought that was a fun little feature with the little squirting dragon. On his back, like clawed to his back.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, I think that's what makes this line different for me, and what made it stand out. Like, especially at the time when, like, let's say, like your GI Joes or even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was basically you just had a figure, and it was up to your imagination and your creativity to do things with that figure. Whereas with the He-Man ones, every single one, it seemed like had something crazy or something cool that you could do to it. whether it was Mechanex's neck going up or Ram Man kind of doing this little spring action, changing the face on Man-E-Faces or Triclops. I like that each one kind of had something to, like a little gimmick. And to me, that's what separated them from, I mean, obviously Transformers, you're transforming, so that's kind of built in or whatever. But it separated it to me from the Turtles, from the G.I. Joes, from, some of those other kind of more just like stable figures that you couldn't really do much with.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, I have to agree with you guys about Terror Claw Skeletor. I really like that one, but I also like the original Skeletor as well.
Yeah, it's hard to beat the original sometimes.
Yeah. You guys, Dan's probably going to have to talk about New Adventures because honestly, like I said, I
know.
What? You're talking about something that didn't exist in my imagination.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. See, I was going to say, I think that's how a lot of people feel about it. New Adventures is something that it completely blew by me as a kid. I didn't get once the vintage line was over. I mean, He-Man kind of went away to me.
Yeah.
I never saw the New Adventures cartoon as a kid. In fact, I didn't even really know that existed till I was a little older. I don't know how I completely missed it, but I had no idea it existed. Yeah, it was completely off my radar.
I knew it existed, but as soon as I saw that intro, I'm like, this is not He-Man. Click, change channel, Mighty Mouse. Ooh, Mighty Mouse. Yeah, I'll watch that instead.
But it's 2000X Man-at-Arms, dude. He's totally He-Man in that cartoon.
I know. Good old Gary Chalk.
I don't know if you could see that cartoon and see a picture of He-Man and Skeletor and still be interested in...
I know.
I'm looking at the Skeletor toy, and oh god, that face sucks.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say it sucks, but I am going to say it's quite the departure from the original, and
yeah,
it's not always good to change stuff like that, There's just some things, yeah, there's some things you shouldn't mess with.
Yeah. He-Man wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
The character of He-Man wasn't that bad of a departure. Like, he still resembled him enough where that wouldn't have bugged me, but yeah, I can't get over the darn Skeletor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, first I'll say that I never actually had the toys as a kid, because I remember the one time that I found them in the store and picked it up and showed it to my mom. She was like, "What? That is not He-Man. Put that back. Put that back. We're not getting that. That is not He-Man," because she hated the way it looked, I guess, and I didn't know what it was. I was like, "What is this? Is this He-Man? This is weird looking. He's in space now. Yeah." But it's one of those things that I've gotten into a little later as I became more of a collector. I wanted to start picking some of the stuff up.
How hard is it to find some of these figures?
It's pretty hard, because that's what I'm working on now, is trying to pick up New Adventure stuff, because I've pretty much got all the vintage figures minus one or two, and so now I'm trying to focus. And I've got all the 2000X stuff, so now I'm trying to focus my attention on New Adventures and Princess of Power, and those, of course, are the harder to get out of everything right now, especially the New Adventure stuff, which is weird because a few years ago I could look that stuff up on eBay and it was dirt cheap and it was all over the place, and suddenly it's like it's all dried up. You can't find it. I keep making it my mission, like when I go to like cons and toy shows and stuff, to hunt down tables that have like some loose ones laying around that may not know what they are, and that's how I've picked up a lot of mine recently.
Yeah, gotcha. You guys over at That New Toy Smell a few episodes ago mentioned, actually it was on It Figures, you guys mentioned, this is about a month and a half ago or so, I think, that Masters is kind of becoming what Transformers is on eBay, where it's becoming either extremely hard to find them or they're extremely expensive.
It has gotten that way, and I've like watched this happen over this past several years too, because when the 2003 hit and the new stuff came out around 2002 2003, that piqued interest again, but I was still getting on there and was able to buy a lot of the old stuff pretty decent prices. I mean, at the time I bought a mint in box Nordor playset from the New Adventures line,
right?
Which by the way, is a fantastic playset. Even if you don't like the line, that playset is awesome. But I got that thing mint in box for like $20, and I ripped the thing open, and I put it all together, and I have it displayed in my room now. You can't come across that stuff anymore, and when you do, it's like $150, $200.
Yeah.
It's insane how the prices have really, really skyrocketed on this stuff, especially with classics now being out there. It's like it's really, really driven the interest in the brand.
Yeah. I was just wondering because it seemed like it would be something that would be pretty hard to come by.
It is, yeah. Looking at the figures themselves, I know a lot of people don't like them just because they're so different from the originals. But if you try not to compare them to the vintage counterparts and you have the actual figures themselves, honestly, I think they're pretty cool figures. And I think a lot of the evil mutants in this line are really cool looking characters. Like, I really like Optic. I really like
We know.
Slushhead. Yeah. See, I was huge fan of Optic showing up in classics. That made my day. I was so happy about that. But Optic, I love Slushhead, I love Flog. I mean, some of those guys are just really cool looking designs, and I think that they do translate perfectly. Obviously, I think Optic was a great example of how they can translate into a more Masters of the Universe type look than the 90s versions of those figures did look.
Optic does look pretty cool.
Yeah,
he does.
Giant eyeball for a head. How can you not like that guy? Come on.
And even the Slushhead. I mean, some of these, you're right. Some of them do look pretty good. If you could show me these figures and like I didn't know that they were under the label He-Man. If I could separate it like that, it would be much easier to see, like, oh, these are, like, if these were just, like, some other random toy line in the 80s, I'd be like, these were pretty cool looking.
Exactly.
It's until you tie that He-Man name, and then all of a sudden you're like, what?
You're like, huh? Yeah, what? These aren't He-Man. Yeah, exactly.
Even that's... Hydron guy doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, Hydron. Yep.
Yeah.
See, you guys are talking, and it's funny, I'm going to make another Transformers reference. The way you guys are talking about New Adventures, it's almost like everybody loves G2. Everyone that loves Generation 2 Transformers toys. It's kind of like
people that like those?
There's some.
Oh, okay.
I don't know enough about Transformers to know.
But New Adventures for me, because the cartoon didn't catch me, I just completely glossed over the toys.
Yeah. That's easy to do.
I mean, if something that, obviously, cartoons in the 80s, majority of them were toy commercials, but if the cartoon isn't going to catch me, there's no way I'm going to pay attention to the toy line.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I'll tell you, have you ever read the mini comic that came with the New Adventures figures that actually explain the story? It's different than the cartoon. And if the cartoon would have went the route of that mini comic, I think it would have been a lot better, honestly.
No, I never got a chance to read.
Yeah. So the basic idea in the mini comic is that these guys from space or whatever, the future, they're in this big war or whatever, which is kind of the same thing that's going on in the cartoon. And they're basically looking for, a savior to help them win this war. And of course they locate Eternia, and they can tell that they're supposed to, there's legend of there being this big hero on Eternia, and they're going to go and ask for his help. The legendary He-Man. They're going to get He-Man to help them win this war. And it basically boils down to them landing there and Skeletor meeting them first, and Skeletor tricking them into thinking he's He-Man. And so Skeletor is going to leave with them so that he can, he's going to take this ship over to Castle. I think his plan was he was going to commandeer their ship and take it over to Castle Grayskull and suck up its energy and its power and all this kind of stuff, right? It's silly plot, but it's a Skeletor plot, so whatever. But it basically boils down to like He-Man getting on this ship, or Prince Adam. That's what it is, because it's Prince Adam. I think he ends up becoming a prisoner of Skeletor on who has commandeered the ship. And Sorceress kind of contacts Adam and basically tells him, look, this is kind of a big deal. You need to do something about this. Skeletor's going to screw all kinds of stuff up. He's going to screw the future up, all this. You need to just not worry about your secret identity, and you need to stop him right now. And so he transforms into He-Man in front of Skeletor. And Skeletor freaks out because, like, what? Adam's He-Man? Holy crap. And he lunges at He-Man while he's transforming, and the power of Grayskull, like, basically blasts him and fries him. And scars him and burns him up real bad, and he gets blown back. And so He-Man when he turns into He-Man, that's kind of when he decides to take on this new mission to, help these guys win this war or whatever.
Right.
And Skeletor is all burnt up and he's all nasty and everything from getting electrocuted, which is why they explain why he looks a little different, because he starts attaching cybernetic parts to himself so that he can fix himself up. And so that's kind of their explanation for why there's no Adam in it. He's just always He-Man, and now Skeletor knows the identity and this and that. And it's a really cool comic, and I really like the story. And it's different than the way they did it in the cartoon. And I always thought that if it was just a little more epic to have him transform into Skeletor and Skeletor try to stop it, I thought that was a really, really cool idea. So I don't know.
Definitely sounds a little bit better than some of the episodes I've seen.
Yeah. I know. I have all those on DVD, and I've tried sitting through them, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I have to watch it. It's He-Man. And then I'm like, oh, God, I hate it when Skeletor talks. Stop talking, Skeletor.
Mike, it's basically the Unicron trilogy.
Yeah, pretty much. What was the commemorative line? Was it basically just reissuing the vintage line?
Yeah, that was when Mattel was kind of testing the waters, I think, to see what the interest would be for the 2002 relaunch. Right. And basically, they just reissued the vintage Masters of the Universe figures in these really cool, they were on their original card backs, but then they were inside these awesome, bubble packages that kind of protected them, these protective cases, and they were limited runs. I think they only made 10,000 of He-Man and Skeletor, and it's something real low like that. Those were really cool, and I just remember stumbling upon those in a Walmart one day and freaking out. Oh my God, He-Man.
Yeah, if I would have seen those in a store at that, I must have missed them somehow. But if I would have seen those in a store back in 2001, I would have been going nuts.
Yeah, they were.
Because I used to always long for the day where some of the old toys would be back on the shelves. That's why I always got excited when new Transformers stuff came out, because I'm like, oh, Transformers back on the toy shelves. So if I would have seen this stuff, I probably would have gone broke.
Oh yeah. I know, that's exactly what I did, because I swooped up the He-Man and Battle Cat and Skeletor and Panther set immediately, because I was
nice.
I have to have these.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was so great.
Before we move into the actual 2002 line, Panther is something that Kevin never had until I got it for his birthday last year. I went on eBay.
Really?
I went on eBay and found a vintage Panther for a pretty decent price, and it was complete.
That's good.
And yeah, he had never had Panther before from the vintage line, so
yeah, that was a great present.
Yeah.
I know we're not really covering this topic, but since it's kind of connected to this universe, I do have to give a little shout out to the Princess of Power line.
Yeah.
Because that is by far one of the best girl-oriented toy lines ever.
That and Gem.
Yeah, I mean, I loved first of all, I had an older sister, so I could make an excuse to play with her She-Ra dolls, or not, She-Ra and the rest of the Princess of Power, and kind of combine them with my He-Man figures and whatnot. But I actually have a crazy story. One year for Christmas, she was into She-Ra, I was into He-Man, and I bought her a Princess of Power figure, and it was either Castaspella or Frosta. I think it was Frosta, and I bought it for her for Christmas, but I bought it in October, November, somewhere in there. And I put it in this closet we had to hide it until Christmas. And it came the week before Christmas, and I went to get it so I could wrap it, and it was gone. And to this day, not one member of my family knows where it is, what happened to it, or anything about it.
That's bizarre.
So I have this vision that eventually when I clean out my mom's house one day, a long time from now, I'm gonna find it, and it's gonna be this moment where the universe aligns perfectly, and there's gonna be a rainbow and all this other stuff. But it's driven me nuts for this many years, because I don't know where it went. How could it disappear? It was in a closet that was full of blankets and pillows. I don't know what happened to it.
Wow, that is bizarre.
Speaking of different colors, especially Princess of Power toy line, I'm so glad at this year's Comic-Con they voted. And when Swiftwind comes out in Classics, he will be white, the way he was supposed to be.
With Royal Swiftwind instead of classic pink Swiftwind.
Yeah. Yep. But that's one of the things that was cool, is that, that they each had their own horse, and I remember some of the vehicles being pretty cool, and I don't know, I just liked these as a companion toy to some of the He-Man figures, and I don't know, I think this was a very cool line.
I The only ones I had as a kid was Bo and Cowl. I had both of them. They were the only ones that I actually owned. But I had a next door neighbor who was a girl that was the same age as me, and she had a huge She-Ra collection. And so, like, every day we would bring all of our He-Man and She-Ra toys outside, and we would play He-Man and She-Ra together. And
that's awesome.
I still remember that to this day. I mean,
I remember the horse called Storm was very badass looking, in my opinion.
Yeah, wasn't it like kind of like a blackish?
It had a black, and then it was basically had white wings with just a tiny bit of pink on it. Not too much where it looked like too girly. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
I have Arrow, which is Bo's horse now. He's kind of like bluish, So I have Bo and
cool
Arrow. Yeah, I don't have a lot of She-Ra toys. I've got a very limited amount. I'm trying to get some more, but they're expensive because
they're very expensive.
Trying to find them with their skirts and their headbands and their accessories and the good hair, it's like impossible. But
they were ones that looked really cool in the package.
Yeah, for sure. But just last week, I picked up a Crystal Castle playset, so I actually have that now. And
awesome.
And it's funny because that thing is probably the girliest toy that I own. That thing
outside of your wife's Disney toys.
Outside of my wife's Disney dolls.
Unless you had something Barbie, yeah.
or unless you were like your twin Pixel Duval that collects My Little Ponies.
Oh yeah, that's right, yeah.
I remember my sister having, I believe it was Crystal Falls.
Yeah.
Which was like a 3-tiered waterfall that actually had water that you could put into it. And that was pretty cool. I always thought that was a pretty cool playset.
It is cool. That's another one that I'll probably end up getting eventually.
Yeah.
I always justify it, I'm like, I can do it because it's part of the He-Man line. I can get big pink giant castles, But it's funny because you open up the Crystal Castle and it is a dollhouse because it's got like a bed and a dresser and all kinds of little stuff. And I'm like, well...
Let's keep the door shut.
Yeah, I'm glad I have all the accessories for this, but I'll probably never open this again.
And that's what was cool to me about the Crystal Falls is because it wasn't that girly looking to me, and I love the fact that you could actually put real water in it. I mean, in retrospect, it is girly looking, but to me it was cool because of the different waterfalls that made it cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Sorry, I didn't mean to off track our...
No, it's all right. It's all right. For me, really, like, a couple months ago, I went on eBay just looking for Grayskull parts, because mine isn't complete, unfortunately. I'm missing the jaw bridge. I mean, I'm missing all the insides, and I'm missing one of the turrets on the left side of the castle as you're looking at it.
Right.
I went on there looking for parts, and there was nothing. And to buy it mint, it's like anywhere from $200 to $400. And I'm like, there's no way. I already have it. All I really want right now is the other turret and the damn jaw bridge. That's all I really want. I don't really care about the insides of it. Like you guys were saying about the crystal palette. I never really cared about the inside of Grayskull. I always liked just the outside.
Yeah. What about the weapons rack, though, dude? That's awesome.
That's what the weapons packs are for in the classes.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, 2002, now, I was still out of it. New Adventure scarred me so much. It wasn't my He-Man.
Really?
It's fine if it was somebody else's He-Man, that's fine. But 2002 came along, and I never even really knew about it. I think I had seen a couple episodes here and there. I had seen the first one, like where Skeletor keeps going on about not
that's the old cartoon.
Yeah, I know.
It's very similar though.
The source wall, the mystic wall. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
He kept going on and on about that, and I'm like, oh, He-Man cartoon. Wait, that isn't the Filmation cartoon. Change channel. However, hold on. Just recently, last year, I found the complete series of that Mill Creek put out of 2002, and I got the DVDs, and I pretty much watched all 39 episodes within the span of like 2.5 days.
Good man.
And that's the difference between Mike and I, because actually, well, just to back it up a little bit, like I remember seeing the pictures online of the designs for the cartoon before the series aired, and I was really pumped up. I was really excited. I really liked the way that they made the characters look, and I'm like, oh, I got to check this out. But I think just timing-wise, it must have came out when I was like just too wrapped up and busy with college or with whatever I was doing that I somehow missed the whole cartoon, even though I was excited about it. But I have a similar story. Yeah, I found the DVD set, just kind of browsing through Best Buy looking for old vintage like cartoon stuff, and I see this, and it was a very good price, and I'm like, oh, I remember this was that one that it looked like it was going to be a pretty decent remake or update of the old cartoon. I actually picked it up. I think I bought it almost the exact same time Mike bought his.
Yeah. It was like 2.5 days apart.
Yeah, but he watched his in those 2.5 days, and I have been sidetracked a lot.
That's because you have a lot of work to do.
I am down to the final. Actually, I was on like a marathon this last week, and I'm down to the final 2 or 3 episodes. So I'm very excited. So I love this series.
It's so good. It's such a shame that it didn't continue.
It is, because I would have loved to have seen She-Ra brought into this, and all those characters.
I was real curious to see where they were going to go with everything. I mean, with the Powers of Grayskull, the Power of Grayskull episode, and they started, showing us the Horde, and they were really teasing Hordak coming back. Yeah, I mean, it was getting so exciting, and then they were just like, "We're done," and it's like, no.
Well, and one thing, and one thing that series did an excellent job of is not necessarily introducing a bunch of characters at once. I loved that you going through and watching the episodes, you get these characters unexpectedly appearing. Like all of a sudden, here's Buzz-Off, or and later on in the series, all of a sudden here's Fisto, and it was just that the way they introduced them, kind of just like one every once in a while, was really cool, and it always made me interested to keep watching the next episode to see who else they're going to introduce and what he's going to look like, and all that type of stuff.
Well, the thing about the 2002 cartoon is it is strict continuity. It starts you at the beginning before He-Man ever was He-Man, because it gives you the backstory of Randor and Keldor and all that stuff. And it sets up continuity. So all 39 episodes, they basically back up to each other.
Well, yeah, and the storytelling in the 2002 series puts the original one to shame.
Well, let's see, that's the thing, though, because...
I love the original one, but the storytelling you cannot compare.
Well, right. Well, the thing is, the reason why you can't compare it is because, like I just said, 2002 has strict continuity. The Filmation series was one-off stories each week.
Yeah, you don't really have any... Yeah, there's no continuity with the old series.
And eventually in the old series, it was the same episode over and over again. The thing that I don't know, the only complaint... Well, this is getting way off topic, but the reason, like, the old one, there was always a new area of the planet.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, does this planet, like, is this the biggest planet ever? Like, how many more areas are there to discover here? But anyways, that's off topic. We'll get back to toys.
Dan probably is going to have to talk about the O2 line, because I've seen the pictures of it, but I never had them.
They look really cool.
Never had them.
Never had them.
Wow. Well, it was a really exciting time, I'll tell you what, because, I mean, it was brand new He-Man toys back in the stores. However, as you've probably heard, it was also one of the most frustrating lines to collect. Mm-hmm. Because, of course, this is the line that's famous for Mattel plaguing it with He-Man and Skeletor repaint after repaint after repaint. Yeah. And, case pack ratios that were 5 He-Man, 1 Orko. 5 Skeletor, 1, Trapjaw. I mean, it was impossible to get anybody besides He-Man and Skeletor in that line.
Well,
it was
I was just going to say, what's up with I'm looking at pictures of it, what's up with the Beastman repaint?
Oh, yeah, well, towards the end of the line, it was like nothing but repaints. They came out with crazy colored versions of a lot of the different characters. I mean, there was a repaint of Merman, Triclops, Beastman, Trapjaw. They did all of those. Disco Skeletor is my favorite. Have you ever heard of Disco Skeletor?
No, but I'm going to have to look it up now.
Well, he's not actually called Disco Skeletor, but that's what the community calls him, the fan base, because he's the most god-awful repaint. I don't even know what Mattel was thinking when they made this, because he's wearing shiny gold armor. He's got his legs and his chest and his arms are all painted black, but his feet and his hands are still the light colored blue of his skin. He's got a bright orange face, and then like his chest underneath the gold armor is like a metallic blue for no reason, just a metallic blue. So it's just this ridiculous, like, this crazy palette of colors that don't go together at all, and you just look at it and you're like, what is this? I have to buy it. It's so ugly. I need to own this.
Ugly.
Yeah. So I actually have him sitting on my shelf because it's so hideous. I had to have him up there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it just seems strange, like especially like this Beastman. Like look at one of them and he's got like the natural like orangish brownish fur, and then this other one's like a brightish red fur.
Yeah.
Well, Dan was mentioning, they pretty much, short packed a lot of the other characters outside of He-Man and Skeletor. And honestly, getting 5 He-Mans and 1 Orko, really, Orko sucked in that line.
Okay, so. I'll back you on that. I love the 4 Horsemen. I love almost everything that they do. I did not like their Orko redesign.
I didn't mind it in the cartoon. It was kind of okay for the way the cartoon looked, but toy...
Yeah, the cartoon looks different than the toy version. The thing I don't like the most about the toy Orko is that it looks like he has legs under his robe, but he's still floating. I don't like that. It's like, what does he have, like invisible knees going on under there? That's yeah. So I've never liked that sculpt. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of people that do like it because it's like a dark Orko, but I
was gonna say the Orko the next Orko that came out in that line, I think of the 2003 one or whatever. His face, like, he almost looks scary. It's just like this black. Yeah. Oh, I found the Skeletor. Yikes.
Isn't he amazing?
He's pretty amazing.
What else do we want to say about the O2 line? Because I think after we finish this, we're going to take a quick break.
I wish I had some.
There were a lot of exclusives in that line. Mail-aways and con exclusives. I think the two... Well, let's see. Faker was a Toy Fair exclusive. If you remember, they just repainted He-Man again, just like the old line. Yeah. They did Mossman, but he was just a flocked version of Beastman and not the way Mossman looked in the cartoon. So, like, it didn't work as well in the 2002 line because they made Beastman so huge and, like, hunched over and actually, really, what's the word? Like a primitive beast looking. And so making him, just green and flocked totally didn't work in that line,
Yeah.
But then, of course, they had the convention exclusives. They had She-Ra, which was the last exclusive that they did. Which was a very cool addition to get. And then my personal favorite, which was the Keldor exclusive. And that is probably the absolute coolest figure in that entire line, I think. Just because they really went all out to like make that one look like a real collector's piece. Like, he's got excellent shading and blackwash going on, and he just looks real dark and menacing. And then he's got the 3 changeable heads. He's got the Keldor head, he's got the Skeletor head, and then he's got the half-melting head. How cool is that? Like, his face is half melted off, so you can see the skull, and then you can see, half Keldor's face, and he's screaming. I think that is
badass looking. He was a badass looking character, anyways, to begin with.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I couldn't believe that they really went all out with that figure, and that's one of my absolute favorite He-Man toys ever. Still to this date, I love that figure.
What are your thoughts on the exclusive the snake armor Skeletor? The one that had like the snake
the big long arms, is that the...
No, he had the Snake Armor He-Man and Snake Armor Skeletor. He had like a snake head going above his head with like the 2 fangs.
He was like a 2-pack, right? Wasn't it
like
Snake Armor Skeletor and like Wolf Armor He-Man, I think was what they were? Yeah, those were just goofy looking. I mean, they came with like... Because they had those big clunky shields that they came with that had like some kind of weird action feature where spikes jutted out of the sides of them. And then, the Skeletor probably would look better if he didn't have that additional snake on top of the snake head.
Yeah, that looks kind of weird.
Yeah, I think that's what throws him off.
Gotcha.
But the whole line was full of weird repaints like that and weird variations, like Jungle Attack He-Man. He just looked like a friggin' Rambo with his little bandana and his crossbow.
Yeah. Well, it looks like the line. It's kind of a little bit of everything. Like, you have some really cool, like, badass looking figures, and then you have some that are like, what?
Yeah. Well, they were really trying to get the attention of the kids with this line, because their hope was that this new cartoon and this new toy line were going to get little kids excited about He-Man again. And you could tell that they were trying really hard to, like, make He-Man a big deal with kids again, and they were totally focusing on the wrong community, because the collectors were the ones that wanted these, not the kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've obviously figured that out now. But at the time, I mean, that's kind of what drove that line into the ground. I mean, they were way too concerned with all these repaints and reissues of He-Man and Skeletor, and not focusing on giving us new, original, other heroes and other villains, and that's what eventually drove that line into the ground, unfortunately.
Yeah, there is a million different Skeletors, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that Snake Crush one with the long arms is one of the goofiest looking things I've ever seen in my life.
It's like, why wouldn't you just make Squeeze? Why did you make Skeletor with big long arms? I mean,
this is Skeletor and Squeeze's kid.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Squeezator.
That's what they should have named it.
Really quick, I when I was watching the cartoon, I always look for references in other stuff, whether it's Transformers references in He-Man or He-Man references in Transformers or whatever. I always do. I'm just that way. And the episode where they showed Hordak talking to Skeletor about reopening the gate and all this and all that, and Hordak's like, I can take away what I've given you. The first thing I thought was, oh great, Skeletor is Galvatron, Hordak is Unicron.
Yeah, that's not bad. I just actually watched that episode, so that's fresh in my mind. Seriously, this toy line had a Samurai Battle Raptor.
Yes, it did. And that went along with Samurai He-Man, Samurai Skeletor, and Samurai Man-at-Arms.
That reminds me of the Turtles now.
I
think everybody samurais. The whole 20 more figures we can produce.
Well, they totally did an episode with the Samurai armor, remember? It was the Cyclone episode, Mystery of Anwat Gar.
Yeah.
I don't remember Battle Raptor being there, though.
No, Raptor wasn't in it. But they totally threw that Samurai armor in there for no reason other than to sell those toys.
That's the only complaint I have about that series, and they did it a lot more towards the end of the 39 episodes, as they started coming out with all these different armors or these different outfits for everybody to wear. I'm like, please don't do that.
I didn't mind the He-Man of the North armor, but the rest of them I didn't really care for.
Oh, like the Ice Armor He-Man? I like the Ice Armor He-Man, and
I do, yeah.
I actually liked the Snake Armor that they gave him towards the end, because I like the idea that when He-Man needs to, he can use the power to generate different types of armor. I think that's a cool idea. So, and it gives an explanation for why, there was a Flying Fist He-Man, and, maybe that's our reasoning for all that.
There you
go. So, I like that.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and this little clip that you're going to hear in the break is from one of the former co-hosts and potential future co-hosts of Radio Free Cybertron. It's Ender's rant on Mattel, so we'll be back after this.
And the Masters of the Universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull, Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together we defend Castle Grayskull from the evil Masters of the Universe.
This is Radio Free Cybertron.
Thank God Hasbro isn't Mattel. Ender, the floor is yours.
Oh. Mattel's Masters of the Universe has gotten to be like the most malignant, moronic, mishandled line in history. Not since a Hasbro creative meeting, when one executive blurted out, "Let's kill the red truck guy," has a franchise been handled worse. The Masters of the Universe Classics are an amazing line. They use modern toy-making techniques to bring out the best of a vintage figure, retaining its charm and essence while consistently exceeding modern quality standards and delivering fan-driven fun for the adult collector at a price that, while higher than average, is altogether reasonable. Sadly, the He-Man Genius Falcon reaches its apex at this conceptual stage, and then careens out of the sky with the aerodynamic grace of a quadriplegic hippo with an inner ear infection, plummets through a sky of inept customer service, plows straight and through a swamp of incompetent planning, and rests broken and ruptured in a bedrock of useless management. MattyScalper.com's inability to even handle its monthly server load, much less the demand for its product, has settled into a comfortable pattern of letting itself be milked by scalpers at a rate of 10 figures an order, while the real customers wait in error screens. Meanwhile, scalpers, who are, by the way, the most worthless scum on earth, have already posted their overpriced rip-off auctions on the well-oiled servers of eBay, touting items' rarity due to a false scarcity they themselves have created with the foolish help of Mattel. Nothing endears fans to a brand like having legal tender slapped out of their hands as they attempt to exchange it for your product. The Band-Aid of a club was offered, seemingly a reasonable fix. You commit to buying the figures, and they guarantee you one. Simple enough. Until the line branches out into non-club figures, and the cycle begins again, as Battle Cat is snapped up by the scalping horde, and He-Man fans get shackled with Wondar, a not remake of a never-was exclusive. Now, underestimating demand for a fan line or miscalibrating your limits is not an unreasonable error. They have to make a profit and have to hedge their bets. However, one might think that after 1.5 to 2 years might be enough time to calibrate well enough that your servers don't crash every full moon and your product lasts more than half a hour. Mattel, get your together. Fire everyone on this project who is not a designer and sell us our toys. We give you money, you give us stuff.
We are back, and it's time for Masters of the Universe Classics.
What's that?
I recently found out about these through videos that I don't even know. It might have been your videos, Dan, but how did I find out about the classics? I had just finished watching the 2002 series, and I honestly don't even remember now how the hell I found out about them.
Way to go.
I know it was something that...
Just humor me and tell me it was my videos.
Well, it probably was. But, I mean, I was looking for it on YouTube or something, or maybe, and I found one of your videos, and I just subscribed from then on. But, the Classics line is so great. You know, say what you want about Digital River and Matty and all that stuff.
Keep all that stuff separate, because that's a total mess all on its own. That shouldn't actually have anything to do with these figures.
Yeah, no.
Because the figures themselves are awesome.
Yes, they are.
Awesome.
Yes,
they look awesome. The only reason I don't have any is because I know if I start, I have to buy them all, and I can't afford that right now.
It's a drug, and they
I can't afford it. Yeah, and I saw the prices on them, and I'm like, I have to wait on these.
Well, and it's like I've said this before. These are figures that, first of all, because the way, and somebody pointed out to me, well, why don't you just get the new subscription? I'm like, why would I get the new subscription when I want figures that they've already had in the old subscription?
So these you don't miss any new ones, duh.
Well, true. I know, true. But anyways, but like a lot of these, I don't mind going to places like Big Bad Toy Store and paying a little bit of markup just to be able to have the figure. I mean, so far I've got Adora, Orko with Adam, Hordak, Skeletor, King, the Burger King, and Stratos.
The Burger King.
That's right, the Burger King. I wish they would have used a 2002 inspired design instead of the comic design.
There are certain times where I'm the same way. Generally, I'm the guy that's like, nope, vintage. Let's do the vintage style. That's the one I want.
Yeah.
But there are certain characters where I'm like, well, 2000X probably was better. Case in point, Evil Lynn. I think a 2000X Evil Lynn will be awesome if they ever make her.
If they ever make her, yeah. Yeah. My problem with Randor is, like, I am totally with you as far as vintage, but for me, vintage is Filmation. And unless they get permission from Filmation,
yeah.
as far as I know, they can't use it unless they get permission from Filmation and Lou Scheimer. That's probably why, unfortunately, we will never get a Shadow Weaver.
Well, unless they ever work those rights out. That is definitely one of the biggest bummers of the line, is that they can't do anything Filmation. Anything that was created for the Filmation cartoon, they can't touch.
Isn't there a King Randor, though?
Yes. The thing is the Randor that we got is based off of his original action figure, which has a different look than the Randor in the cartoon.
Right,
and,
okay.
Yeah, so...
I will say that looking through some of these, the Tila for this line has got to be the best, hottest-looking Tila that's ever been in a cartoon or an action figure.
For sure.
She is way better looking than any other past version of Tila.
They combined the old version with the 2002 version, didn't they?
I don't know, but it looks better.
Well, she doesn't have the long ponytail, that she did in the 2000 version.
Yeah,
right.
But they gave her the two heads so that you can either have her wearing the snake armor like the old toy, or you can have her with just the head with her red hair pulled back.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, but I think all the females in this line so far are some of the best female action figures I've seen in a long time. Honestly, I think they're all very well done.
The Adora, the She-Ra, the Evil Lynn, and the Tila all look really good.
Yeah, they are great. Oh man, and how awesome is that Adora? I was so happy to get that Adora because that's a figure that we've never had ever.
Right.
So it was like, and she looks so good.
Yeah, this is the first time they ever did an Adora figure, so that was just awesome.
And for them not being able to make anything Filmation style, she sure does look Filmation style, does she not?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does. Well, honestly, that was the only place we had her. I don't.
Yeah, they were able to do her because they found they have old style guides that Mattel did, and anything that appeared in these old style guides from when they were like first originating the series, they were able to use because it's technically theirs. And they had Adora and the She-Ra that looks the way she does were both in that style guide, so that's how they were able to get away with doing those figures.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. So sometimes we get lucky.
Yeah.
Now, one thing on Adora I have to point out: there's a lot of people, and I know you just got the second weapons pack that has a more in line with He-Man Adora sword or She-Ra sword. The original Adora sword, I have to point out to people, if you look at, I have a screen cap, and I may put it in the episode 83 post. If you look at the Sword of Power and the Sword of Protection in Secret of the Sword, the Sword of Protection is slightly slimmer than the Power Sword. They are not the same size.
That's a tough call.
I'll have to show you the image. But first ever Adora. That was just amazing. I find let's talk about the funny part, especially for San Diego Comic-Con this year. Orko.
Yeah.
With Adam.
With Adam as the accessory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of funny because they put Adam like laying down and behind the nameplate, so you can't even actually see him in the blister card. You just see Orko in this giant card back, and you're like, why does he need this big box? Oh, because they have Prince Adam laying down underneath him. Yeah,
that's kind of a cool touch.
It is cool. And the Adam figure is awesome. He's not the 2000X style Adam, which I know a lot of people still want to see made. But I do like because they gave him an interchangeable head where he's got like a smiling happy face, so he doesn't just have the same grimace as He-Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
I do like that they've kind of obviously gone after all different they, like you said, some of the different series. They're not just focusing on just the original. They have the original. They have the 2002. They have the New Adventures represented. There's a couple. It was where did the Wondar character come from?
Okay, Wondar is actually more of like an homage to an old like a legend, a Masters of the Universe legend, basically.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of people often, I don't know if you've ever seen anything about it, but a lot of people refer to him as either Savage He-Man or Wonder Bread He-Man. Because supposedly there was a figure released as part of a Wonder Bread promotion before the Masters of the Universe toy line even started, which was a brown-haired, brown loincloth version of He-Man that did not have the He-Man armor on. And some reports have him coming with the black Zodak armor and gun. Some reports have him coming with just some brown generic weapons. But the thing is it's one of those things that Mattel has never been able to actually say, yeah, we released that.
Gotcha.
So there's all this weird, it's just been one of those things that's been going on basically on the internet through the fan community for years and years and years and years. So kind of as a little homage to that, and almost kind of like a joke basically from Mattel, as the subscription exclusive last year, you got the He-Man with the brown hair and the black Zodak armor, and they named him Wondar to reference Wonder Bread He-Man. So, because he also came packaged with a loaf of bread accessory.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, that's cool that they're doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
not only
I think
are they
so
doing
too.
not only are they representing every line, but they're representing the fandom in a way.
Exactly. Yeah, and they're doing all the different cartoon series, but they're also doing like prototype stuff, stuff that was never actually released,
Right.
like Hero and Gygor, the gorilla. I mean, those were old prototype figures that never got released in the vintage line, and now we finally have those in toy form.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool that they're doing concepts, they're doing 2000X, they're doing New Adventures, they're doing Princess of Power. I mean, they're touching everything, and I think
was King Grayskull available ever before, or was this the first version of that?
This was the first time, and he was the very first figure in the line actually. So he kicked off the classics line.
That's awesome. That's a good way to do it.
And King Grayskull is actually going to be reissued, and it's going to be a slightly better version.
I think so. I think so. They basically just they reissued him because so many people missed out on him originally because he was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and he started the line off. So a lot of people missed that figure because he was the first one and he was an exclusive. So they're finally reissuing him, but they did it in a way where he's practically a brand new figure. He's the same sculpt, but they changed the paint job on him to actually make him a little more cartoon accurate, except he's got this bright red cape now. But they also threw in some extra touches like the cool little phasing power sword he's got where like the energy's draining out of it, so it's like half translucent blue, half silver. It's kind of a cool little touch. I mean, he's a neat looking figure. I like him quite a bit actually.
Yeah, I haven't seen a figure on this line yet that I have not liked.
I so wish with Keldor that they would have had an alternate head, the melting head.
Melting head, oh for sure. Oh, that would have been
that would have been so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool.
So cool. What else do we want to talk about? I guess we can talk about what's coming up. Panther, which
coming.
Dan isn't too thrilled about.
No, look. I like that Panther. I think the sculpt looks great. I love it.
Right,
and
but you just want it flocked.
If they ever release a flocked one, like they say they might, it's going to replace that version on my shelf. I'm telling you right now.
Nice.
And actually, this Panther is coming with a helmet.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things you pointed out in your video, but it's also one of the things that I remember as a kid. I'm like, okay, well, here's Battle Cat, the vintage Battle Cat, and he's got his harness and he's got a helmet. And I'm thinking, why doesn't Panther have a helmet, damn it?
Well, apparently that's exactly the reason they did it. Scott Knightlick actually just recently said that, he always, as a kid, wondered why his Panther didn't have a helmet, so they kind of thought about incorporating that into the new line, making a new helmet that you can put on your Panther if you want to. So I think that's a neat little touch. I won't probably display the helmet on mine, but I will never complain about extra accessories, So,
So what else is coming out, though, in the next...
We have our first Snake Man finally hitting the line because King Hiss is coming out in the next year. Yep, and they went back to the vintage look of him. So because in the 2000 series he kind of had like that Egyptian look going on with like the So they went back to the old style, which I'm happy about because I prefer the old version. But real happy that we're finally getting some Snake Men in the line. Bo is coming out from Princess of Power.
Yeah, Bo's the January figure,
and they gave him two heads. one with mustache, one without, just like they did with Man at Arms. So you can.
That's my only complaint about Man at Arms. I wish that the mustache head was on the figure in the package.
Oh, in the package? Well, yeah. But the vintage figure didn't have a mustache, so that was their reasoning. So
That's funny.
Yeah. So Bo's on the way. Who else is coming out? Oh, they're doing a Shadow Beast, which I thought was kind of crazy. Those are just those big creatures that are in the 2000X cartoon. Yeah, they're making a figure of him. Of those. Isn't
that just going to be a Guygor repaint?
Basically with a different head. Looks really good, though. I like the way it looks. I mean, that's kind of how most of this line goes, if you think about it. They just reuse parts all through it, but it works, It works with these.
Yeah.
So, if anyone's interested out there, what's the best way to go about getting these for the right amount of money? And
I'll tell you, the problem obviously is that these sell out incredibly fast. Everybody that's ever tried to order them knows the frustration of trying to go through MattyCollector.com.
Mm-hmm.
And
now let's talk. Well, before you get too far into that, Dan, let's talk about this. Why is it just because kids have no interest that the only thing for Masters that's in stores for Mattel to sneak it back into stores was the DCUC, MOTUC 2-packs? Why aren't they in stores anymore?
I think, honestly, that the retailers were so unhappy with the way the 2000X line went that they didn't want Masters of the Universe in the stores. And you can tell that Mattel is real kind of scared and weary still about that whole incident. Like how recently they said that they were going to try to tone down the 2000X influences in the new line. It's almost like they're worried that they're going to that there's some kind of poison with the 2000X influence that's going to hurt the line again. But I know that, it did so bad in the stores towards the end that the retailers just dropped it, and they couldn't get it back into stores. So they decided to go the route of just, let's try an online-only exclusive, just hit the collector market and see what's going on. And a lot of people have said, that they would like to see, now that this is doing so well, it's been going for 2 years and it's really strong and they've obviously gained more fans. People have been asking why they won't just put it back in stores, but Mattel just keeps saying the only way we're going to put these back in stores is if a potential movie comes out, and then we'll make a movie toy line. So they're really sticking to their guns about keeping this just a collector's based line. I think
honestly, that's all I see it as.
Well, and I think there's a lot of the stuff that they wouldn't be able to do if they made it a wide retail release. I mean, look at all the cool little accessories that we get and the bonuses and the extra heads and all the fun little things that they do. I bet there's a lot of that they couldn't do if they made that a wide release, retail line. Yeah. And I also want to remind people how hard it was to find some of these figures in the 2000X line. I do not want to be driving all over the stores, finding nothing but He-Mans on the shelves and trying to find the one Roboto that's out there. You know what I mean? I think that even this day and age, if they release these figures in the stores, we're still going to have similar issues. I mean,
where I'm having that damn issue with Transformers classic stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want a Bumblebee, no problem. But if you want anything else, good luck.
Exactly. See, and it would be the exact same thing with Masters Classics if they put it in retail.
Well, and part of the problem,
I think a lot of people forget that.
Part of the problem too, though, as someone who worked retail for a decade, is not necessarily anybody's fault as far as the toy manufacturer and how they package it. But part of the fault is with the actual people that work in the stores.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the main reason I'm saying that is because if you're not aware of toys, if you're don't have any type of knowledge of what goes into like being a collector and whatnot, you don't realize that by looking at your peg that you only have one or two figures represented.
Yeah.
And if you put a new box out, obviously the lesser known figures or the newer ones are going to get shopped right away. But if you leave, then like I said, if you have a package of 5 different figures, but you only you put them all out there and the main ones get sold and you're left with a couple Bumblebees and then you do it again, eventually your peg's full of that. And as a store employee, too many store employees don't realize that they would be selling more if they would go replace, some of those with something else.
Right.
And, that's what I always tried to do because I was basically in charge of some of the toy areas at some point. As I would take, if I ever saw something that was sitting on the shelf too long, I would just go back and see if we had any other types that could replace them. But it's kind of a losing battle because, like you said, eventually it becomes a numbers issue and you can't.
Yeah. I honestly think, and this is just my opinion, but I honestly think that the retail market, retail stores are at least a month, maybe a month and a half behind online retailers. They just are. Yeah. They can't keep up. They can't. There's no competing with online retail. There just isn't. It's too big now. As far as getting the Masters Classics, we're trying to stay away from getting into the whole Digital River Matty debacle. Honestly, for me, I get them at Big Bad Toy Store. I don't mind paying a little bit of markup because I know I'm going to actually have a chance to get the figure. I think most of the Masters Classics are $34.99 plus shipping.
That's not terrible, and
that's not terrible considering most of the actual action figures on Matty are like $20.
Exactly.
Well, for those people that don't know though what we were talking about or what you guys were referencing, can one of you talk a little bit more about the subscription that you were talking about?
Yeah, sure. So
go ahead, Dan.
What the subscription is basically Mattel's kind of answer to not having to get online to order these figures every month by basically you're signing up for like a 12-month subscription that's an all-in kind of a thing, where basically you're promising that every month you're going to let Mattel take, $30 out of your account, and they'll just automatically ship you the figure. You don't have to do anything.
Gotcha.
And the way that they've worked it this year is actually it encompasses like everything that gets released. So that accounts all 12 basic monthly figures, plus their 4 quarterly like bonus, which is like their beasts and stuff, like Battle Cat and Gygor. Those are like their quarterly big figures. And then they also do 4 quarterly bonus figures, which are like their repaints, but they're pretty much new characters. So like that's like the Zodak thing.
Right.
Zodak with a K was one of their quarterly refreshes. So the way that this works is you sign up for your subscription, and then you get notified a couple months in advance exactly what's going to be coming out, so you know how much money they're going to take from you. And then on like the 10th of every month, they just pull the funds from you, and they automatically ship you the figure, so that you don't have to do any work. You automatically have the figure coming to you. So if you're somebody that's already planning to buy everything, no matter what it is, or
saves you some hassle.
Exactly. Or if you at least want most of the things, then signing up for the subscription is definitely a good idea. Because even if there's a few figures you don't want, you can always, sell those off on eBay, or you can find somebody to trade with or something like that. That's always been my recommendation. Of course, they only allow like a brief period of time where you can sign up for that subscription, which is usually
subscriptions are already closed now.
They open it up at San Diego Comic-Con every year, and they run it for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then they close it. So... Yeah, you only get about a month to actually turn your subscription in, and for the following year. But,
I see.
Yeah. Now, most of these figures, if you are really interested in going back and finding some of the ones you missed, the good news is that a lot of them really don't sell too terribly high on the secondary market once they've sat there for a little while. So if you miss out on a figure, don't run straight to eBay and buy it, because you're going to end up paying high prices. But if you wait like a month or so and then start looking again, they're going to drop down to, $25, $30, $35. And that's not terribly high. I know it's more than, you would pay if you just order them outright from Matty, but you can still find most of those figures, with the exception of a few. You can find most of those figures for close to the retail price.
Yeah. Excellent. And we should also bring up the Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday, yeah.
Because Cyber Monday, actually a buddy of mine, hopefully, is going to grab these for me if he gets a chance to. Cyber Monday will mark the 3rd reissue of He-Man and Skeletor.
Yep.
And it will mark the 1st reissue of Battle Cat. Anyone that missed out on Battle Cat...
Which a lot of people did.
A lot of people
did. That's one of the worst Matty Collector days ever. That was awful. Oh.
Yeah. My buddy Optobotomus, I was looking, like, after I had seen your Masters reviews, I was looking on YouTube to see if anyone else does them. And I had seen Optobotomus's, he was, it looked like he was going to do a Battle Cat review, but he basically just took a giant, like, shoebox and put, like, a Battle Cat logo on there and a Masters logo on there. And he's like, hey guys, I just got Battle Cat in. Here's Battle Cat. Oh no, wait. Matty had a huge friggin' problem, and I had to put my little cat, my giant fat-ass cat Louie in this box to act like he's Battle Cat. So it was like this whole big funny thing, because he was one of the guys.
A lot of people missed
him. Battle Cat in the beginning, and everybody was really mad about that.
Oh, yeah, that was a fiasco, because I got on that day, too, because I was supposed to be ordering for my buddy Scotty, and I was going to order an extra one, and that's the first thing I missed out on. That's the first thing that I was never able to order, because the site problems were so bad that day. It was awful. It was absolutely aggravating.
Yeah. I hope to God this doesn't happen with Panther.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. I hope not. I hope everybody gets Panther.
I know the Matty Digital River stuff is still kind of bad on He-Man days, but I'm hoping it's not as bad as Battle Cat Day was.
It seemed a little better last time with Roboto, so we'll see how it goes, I guess, the 15th, because there's 3 things going on sale on the 15th.
What are those?
It's King Grayskull, Grizzlor, and the new weapons pack. They all go on sale on the 15th, so we're going to see how that does, because that's going to be a huge test.
Yeah. Yes, it will be. All right, so do we want to bring up anything else? Do we leave anything out, or?
I don't know.
I think we covered a lot of stuff.
All right, Dan, why don't you pimp out PCN?
Oh, I suppose I can do that. All right, well, if you guys are into toys and toy collecting, which I would assume you are if you're listening to this podcast, then you should probably head on over to check out popculturenetwork.com, where we have a ton of really cool action figure related videos. Stuff ranging from Ninja Turtles to G.I. Joe to, of course, Masters of the Universe can all be found right there at the site. Plus, of course, we've got our own forum with a pretty awesome community. So if you want to just hang out and chat about toys or cartoons or comic books, head on over and join the forums. It's free to do, and we'd love to have you guys there.
Very cool. So thank you for joining us here on ToyCast. There's always to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show. Visit our website, geekcastradio.com. Leave the show's feedback in iTunes. Follow us on Twitter. The show name there is TFToycast. Mine is TFG and Mike. Kevin, what is your Twitter?
Boss KDAWG.
And Dan?
Pixel Dan.
Yeah, you mainly just use it for YouTube.
Yeah, I know. I'm really bad about the tweeting. I don't do a lot of it. I post to my Facebook more than my Twitter. But
me too.
Yeah. Speaking of Facebook, become a fan on Facebook. It's facebook.com/GeekCast Radio Network. Dan, do you have the voicemail line number for PCN?
I do.
This time.
If you would like to call and leave us a voicemail, the number to do so is 217-953-4025. You'll go straight into a voicemail, so you don't actually have to talk to anybody. And no, you won't get me if you call that number, so I apologize. But leave us a voicemail, and we'll use it in an upcoming episode of the It Figures podcast, or maybe even that new toy smell.
Yeah. Who are you again? You went to Comic-Con and no one recognized you?
I don't know. I'm just some guy.
Call our voicemail line at GeekCast Radio Network. Tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name, 502-526-5821. We hope you enjoyed this episode of ToyCast and wish you'll join us next time. For now, I am TFG and Mike with Kevin Optimus Sola Thompson and Pixel Dan. Woo. Thank you for listening. Until next time.
I am Adam, Prince of Eternia, defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous.